Alrighty, last video I made was showing that Foster Bailey, Freemason New Ager Foster Bailey, in his book Changing Esoteric Values, whereas him and a bunch of their New Age occultists were pushing President Roosevelt to get us into the World War II, and showing their hypocrisy that, when you have these New Agers, talk about, how they're all for peace and love and not for war. It's, I guess it depends upon the situation that they want to take advantage of, because in this text here clearly showed he was for getting us into World War II, and they actually went so far as to, according to him, some of us, quote, thanked God at last America got to be a part of the war, that when Pearl Harbor happened. They thank God down here. Want to read that? So you have these people that, preach to us when we try to show them the truth about these things through our own research, that we're just nuts, we're conspiracy theorists, there's no basis of fact in any of the things we're trying to share, yet here it is. So I'm finishing this book here, and Changing Esoteric Values, page 72. This is where I left off, I believe, but I did get a little bit irritated because it's like, well, I mean, I don't know why that word conspiracy theory regarding the secret societies is even still thrown around, because I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. You put two and two together, you read their books, and this is approved by the United Nations, these books, and these teachings. And these teachings clearly state there's a hierarchy, there's an Illuminati guiding the destiny of the world. The war, there's some statements talking about how the wars are good because they're part of the cleansing process to bring in the new age. I mean, it's just full out Fruit Loop, crazy, wacko teachings, and frighteningly, this is what the elites, a lot of them believe. So we continue. In another third year, 1954, we were around another corner, and a very important one. When the war was over, the forces of darkness were pushed back, but they were not crushed. And ever since then, there has been the possibility of a third world war that would end the whole human experiment up to date and start us back again as an infant humanity to begin to learn it all over again. And in 1954, it was established subjectively and in reality that there will be no third world war. The final cards were played in connection with the war in Vietnam. France asked Britain and the United States to come in and help them fight. We remember that Churchill said no. The answer given in the United States was no. Admiral Bradford and Secretary of State Dulles called certain leaders of the Senate and the House to a little secret meeting in Washington, and Mr. Dulles made the proposition that America would go in and drive the communists back and save the whole Pacific and the world from communism. We would announce that we would give France supplies, materials, ammunition, send the Navy down, and go in with them. The head of the American Navy backed him up. The congressmen sat in silence, and then they began to ask questions. They said, quote, "This would mean that we'd probably have to send some of the boys down to fight, wouldn't it?" Yes, probably. We'd have another Korean War on our hands. Yes, probably. It would spread to China. Yes, and they turned it down. Later, we went back on this position. Now we were in an unnecessary, unwanted war, which was and is blatantly immoral. We are prolonging it to save face. 1954 also marks a change in Russian policy, which is more than a surface scratch, although it is hard to believe when we remember all that has been going on. Also, we have been settling struggle points and sore spots one after another. 1954 was a great year, a very spiritually significant year. So, and by the way, again, talking about Vietnam, this book came out, what was the year again? 1954. I believe this is the second revised printing, the 1974. It was first published in Great Britain in 1955. So, and just give you the title page. of this book, the United Nations. So first you have "1975 is the next great hierarchical year when the spiritual advancement of humanity will come to climax." I had a total brain. I was going to mention about the Vietnam War. This is before the 1960s and 70s when we really got into the Vietnam War. But I think this is when it was just brewing, right? So again, that was another war that was all started by an event that actually turned out, I think it came out in like 2005, it never happened, the Gulf of Tonkin. Look that up. And, you know, and then show that to your skeptic that tells you you're a conspiracy theorist to your face. You know, show them the Gulf of Tonkin incident. That it was a completely fabricated event where some of our ships were supposedly, I believe, attacked on the sea where, you know, the Vietnam area was, by the Vietnamese Navy or something like that. I don't know, but it was an event that, you know, they needed an event to get into the war. There was a lot of opposition against the war, so there you go. Same thing with the Pearl Harbor that he celebrated. You know, so yeah, he's calling this something immoral, but then it's completely moral to thank God, to praise something horrible like Pearl Harbor because now the U.S. is involved with World War II. So yeah, again, and another example of the schizophrenic mindset of these occultist quacks, if you want to call them that or whatever. 1975 is the next great hierarchical year when the spiritual advancement of humanity will come to climax. Mary Bailey has dealt with this 1975 crisis point in the November 1966 issue of the Beacon magazine. She points out that at that time the hierarchy and the Christ should be able to determine the speed of the externalization of the ashrams and the time and place for the reappearance of the Christ. Then there will be a great measuring of progress and a possibility of increased reception of the new spiritual forces that are now flowing into humanity. What will we do in the next 5 years? We could do anything we please. We could come to the rescue of the hard-pressed world disciples who are working at high tension and struggling to take the greatest possible advantage of the present situation. It will be determined in the very immediate future whether humanity will slip back and again go the long, hard, cruel way, or whether enough men and women of goodwill will have turned from the idea that the best values in life are material possessions and channel money to new and deeper values. One of the masters of the wisdom, who is known to some of us anonymously as the English Master, is working definitely and specifically at that job, which focuses primarily through right relations in the labor field and a new economic sharing. Again, that's socialism. It's socialist mindset. Socialist economic theory. Sharing. You know, sharing sounds nice. And I would be all for the idea of real right human relations. If people are willing to want to share with people, but you know, we can't have a system in place where we force people at gunpoint to share. Just or we create a socialist government where, you know, sorry, it's just not the way the real world works, and I just don't see the see it as a very far-fetched dream that could turn into a nightmare. So it is suggested that he is interested in the problem of making large funds available under the financial department of the hierarchy for the use of the disciples in the new group of world servers. What can we do that is practical about the new group of world servers? It is not much good going out in the old-fashioned Piskian way to convert the world to a doctrine and organize a campaign to say there's a new group of world servers. So again, I think I went over in the last few videos ago anyway, that when they're talking about the age of Pisces, they're most of the time talking about the old Christian, what they call selfish but capitalist. Sometimes they'll refer to Piskian as, sometimes referring to old kind of capitalist age, whatever. But most of the time it means the old Christian age. That, and I got quotes that with either this at the end of this video or future videos. I'll give you some of those quotes from secret societies where they do call the age of Pisces the age of the Christian age that is coming to an end. The esotericists have been saying there is a hierarchy for quite a while. The intelligent men and women of the world need something a little more definite than that. How are we going to uphold the hands of these disciples? By understanding more about the new group of world servers ourselves, by realizing some of their basic needs and trying to do something about it. For example, their link with the hierarchy is stable and sound and sure because of the senior disciples at the top who originally set it in motion. But they now need adequate relationship and links with the intelligent, free-thinking men and women of goodwill in the world so that what they do will have a matrix to work on and they can get response. Any planned action will work only very partially unless the minds of the intelligent men and women of goodwill can be reached and acceptance of the plan secure. Acceptance of the plan, that's the New World Order. Therefore, we need to help the disciples of the world reach the men and women of goodwill in the world. That is the greatest need in the next few years for the new group of world servers. How can we do something about that? By displaying to the intelligent people of the world things that the new group of world servers are doing. Then people will gladly respond. We need to become more expert in spotting the things that are happening all around us in the world that carry the hierarchical note and are the work of the disciples. We must display these activities in attractive, magnetic terms. The world will then realize what is going on and will be glad to support it. Then the men and women of goodwill will no longer feel futile. We can find these constructive things in every nation and in every race in all the 7 major departments of hierarchical activities. 7 major departments of hierarchical activities. In the solving of the problems of humanity, in the achieving of the 4 freedoms, in creating world unity, in the United Nations, in UNESCO, and so on. The world is full of new constructive goodwill action, and the light in the body of humanity itself has increased phenomenally in the last few years. It is the light in humanity by which the hierarchy can tell whether or not it is practical and reasonable to attempt the next step for humanity. Sometimes they have had to wait for several hundred years before they could take it. Anything that can bring light into humanity is a great asset. To aid in this task, there is a movement called triangles, which combines 3 people who work as a triangle unit to visualize and create and channel light and goodwill into the body of humanity. This is likely esoteric kind of language to partially kind of conceal what he might really mean by visualize, creating, and channeling light and goodwill into the body of humanity. It might be these 3 people working in a unit for a revolutionary cause or something like that. I don't know, but or it just might be literal. But like I said, these books are, have a lot of esoteric, writing in it. So sometimes for the uninitiated, it is meant to seem confusing or seem like something else when they really mean something deeper or whatever. But all these triangles linked together create and maintain a worldwide network. To fill the need for a special source of information in all the departments of human affairs in which the hierarchy works, there is an information and research service now available so that we can have accurate and up-to-date knowledge of what is going on, that we may know better how to help. This is a service for the disciples of the world to help make the work of the new group of world servers successful. There is need for a specialized medium of reaching the free-thinking, intelligent men and women of goodwill with goodwill news, and for this purpose a world goodwill commentary appears occasionally. These are some of the things that are possible and practical which need support. If we know about the need, if we desire ardently that need be met, if we hold our minds steady in the light of the soul and know that it can be met, and then if we take action, it will be met. If the esotericists of the world will get together and help the disciples of the world, most of whom are not esotericists, and do whatever they can, the tide of the new life can flow in. It is flowing, but too many esotericists are a little too complacent. It is flowing, and the new forces are available. The thousands of readers and students of the writings of Dejual Cool and Alice A. Bailey are familiar with the statement that, quote, to put it scientifically and from the esoteric angle, spiritual impression has been interrupted, and there has been an interference with the divine circulatory flow, unquote. See page 7 of Problems of Humanity. Many wonder why God allowed such a condition to develop. The simple answer, in their own terms, is that He didn't. The abundantly evident fact is that we, the people in the world, create our own hell, and all are in degree responsible. Even good people. And of course, all students of DK, that's Dejual Cool's teachings, are good people, cling tenaciously to their self-induced habits of thought and the perpetuation of their individual status quo. To whatever extent we ignore this, our responsibility, we contribute to delaying human progress. And those who do only a little about it as convenient are like a man floundering in a dirty mud puddle which he increasingly dislikes with only his nose just out. On the same page, Dejual Cool says, quote, the key to humanity's trouble, focusing as it has on the economic difficulties of the past 200 years and in the theological impasse of the Orthodox churches, has been to take and not to give, to accept and not share, to grasp and not to distribute. So this has involved the breaking of a law which has placed humanity in a position of positive guilt. War is the dire penalty which humanity has had to pay for this great sin of separatedness. So, Dejual Cool, huh? Well, I doubt if he ever wrote that at all. Probably the Illuminati did. Illuminati guy, whatever. But anyways, notice that, again, it's verifying what I'm saying, is that the old age, past 2,000 years, according to the major trouble, has been the economic field, which has been to take and not to give. Now, again, it sounds nice. It sounds like, somebody who wants to bring justice, and most socialists do. They some of them really believe it, but some of them don't sound like they're just evil dictators and stuff like that. It sounds really good on paper. To accept and not share, and so he's talking about the old capitalist system, to grasp and not to distribute. And he's also putting that also with the theological impasse of the Orthodox churches. So he's talking about Orthodox Christianity as being the major problems of humanity, which is why, that is, when you read carefully their stuff, that is one of the religions that, of course, they want to get rid of when they bring in their New World religion, which is based, of course, on humanism, and the God is man. God is immanent. God is man, not transcendent, not the one God that is personality. Because that's what you look up when you look up their definition of God. Because they use that word God, it's not really God. I did a couple videos on my Alan Bradwell channel showing that the God of the Kabbalists, the God of the Gnostics, and etc., the mystery schools, is not really what you know as God. It's an intelligence, it's a force, it's really, when you get down to it, it is like the force from Star Wars. So when you really get down to it, many of them are atheists, just with mystical mumbo jumbo. That do believe in a spiritual realm, that do believe in forces that can be tapped into if you practice the occult sciences, but in all reality, they do not believe. They believe these gods or demons or stuff. They're really forces that are intelligences, but they're not, really personalities, if that makes sense. But anyways, the two world wars, with all their horrors and destruction, were man's doing, not God's. And we are part of humanity. Humanity is God's sick patient today, even as it was in 1914. A few of the 4 billion people on this planet are relatively healthy physically and mentally, but only a few. Generally speaking, we who read these words are of that few. Our responsibility for present world conditions is obviously far greater than that of the great mass of all the others, for we have far greater knowledge. This should not be a separative realization, but an active incentive to the recognition of the essential unity of all mankind. I was talking about bringing us into a new world government. Further, Dijwa Kool says, quote, "The past is in reality more like the prenatal stage than an ordinary living process. When the birthing process is over, a new humanity will be seen active upon the earth." And what did Alice Bailey again say in her reappearance of the Christ book? That these avatars, these Christs, whatnot, she wrote in her words where she could get away with writing it anyways without catching too many people's eyes, that they often they come in times of crisis, they often create crisis to bring to an end the old and bring in the new. No one of us can escape the effects of our birthright of being a human being. Even suicide cannot do that. After death, we are still human beings, working out the results of the part we played in humanity's struggle toward the good life. And presently, we are here again with another chance to do better. There are many more thousands of units in the human family who have accepted a few of the esoteric facts of life than there were in 1918. We have a better chance of being effective now. The 2 world wars produced such potent streams of energy that the thick enveloping cloud cutting us off from God's plan for us was shattered. You mean the Illuminati's plan. not no God's plan. World War I, World War II, that was all planned by the elites. And in this guy's writing, it just shows that this guy again is a shill. He knows that the dupes out that read these books and don't know how to read between the lines, or don't know basically how to properly read this stuff. It's to convince them that what's happening is God's plan. Just like all the other religions, really, that everything's going on is part of God's plan. Just accept it. It's not an evil conspiracy of elitist men that think that they're God. The divine circulatory flow could begin to affect humanity as a whole once more, and you and I have profited thereby. The main characteristic of this renewed spiritual flow has its own powerful quality and is a type of energy which we identify as goodwill. There is more goodwill manifesting in many more thousands of people's lives today than ever before in human history. Recognition is rapidly increasing everywhere of the amazing potency of this energy. Goodwill works wonders. One could wish that goodwill as a relief from human ills could get as good a worldwide TV coverage as aspirin gets. The money for it would be only a small-sized drop out of the bucket of man's wealth today. Quote, "For a cap and bells our lives we pay, bubbles we buy with the whole soul's tasking," unquote. But goodwill may be had for the asking. We humans, however, must recognize its value before we will ask. Our future can be measured by the values we believe in and accept. Our destiny is ours to create in spite of all the outward seeming. In the past 81 years, I have done a little about it, and so much more have thousands of others. We speak with deep conviction and from practical experience. The manifestation of goodwill in the human family is rapidly increasing. Goodwill transcends governmental self-centeredness. And he's meaning governments that don't want to be a part of the worldwide government, part of the New World Order, the nation state, the like the America only nation state, the China only nation state, the Russia only nation state. So that's what the government that don't want to be a part of a socialist international body like the United Nations, don't want to give up their sovereignty to that. That's what he's talking about, governmental self-centeredness. Goodwill transcends governmental self-centeredness, rides clean above ideological and religious disputes, and overrides all geographical boundaries. It is a way of escape from our slavery to material possessions, into the slavery of basically having little to nothing and being made to believe that you're happy in their socialist utopia. While, of course, the ones who started all this, the ones who started the trouble, the ones who brought this system in, they're going to be the ones that are going to reap all the wealth and benefits while they're preaching to us that material possessions are evil. So, it is a way of escape from our slavery to material possessions. It liberates us from our slavery to money power. It confounds our enemies. A natural expression of goodwill going out from us because of our life quality turns aside the bitter and destructive forces in which we are today immersed. Its presence in us enables us to truly say, quote, "We seek to love, not hate. We seek to serve and not exact due service. We seek to heal, not hurt." Oh, again, he goes on with the love bullshit. Well, his definition of love is the same definition of love that like Charles Manson, had in his family. It's a cult. It's like, it's like any religious cult. They love to use that word love when it's convenient, but when it comes to the agenda, like I said, like you go back to my last video where I showed that when it came to World War II, how many millions of lives, were needlessly destroyed and horribly, savagely blown up, mutilated, gutted. I mean, God knows, you watch like the movies like Saving Private Ryan, or you watch, documentaries on it, on what happened to all sides during that war. It was the biggest bloodbath you could ever imagine. It was hell. I mean, so, yeah, he wanted us to get into that war, and that war was, of course, for the bankers and for the ones who set up the United Nations, and yet he's preaching to us about love, not hate. And so it is that all of us, even you and I, are now facing our greatest hour of spiritual opportunity. An opportunity which is ours because we have recognized our spiritual responsibility. We can meet that responsibility more effectively and more quickly by living a life surcharged with the energy of goodwill than by any one other ingredient available. There is a great joy in accepting responsibility. If truly accepted, it inevitably leads to action. One clean, living man thinking truth, oh man, talk to me about truth, is 1,000 times more valuable to his fellow man today than he could possibly have been 50 years ago. The divine circulatory flow, which was interrupted, is now in operation again. The energy of goodwill is in abundant supply and available to us all. The thing that is necessary before the Christ comes is not the Christ of the New Testament, by the way, but of course they're using that side of their controlled opposition, Christianity, which is a fake Christianity that is pumping the Armageddon script that Christ is coming at any time, of course. But that's a part of their agenda too. But the Christ comes. Really, I mean, that's their fake Messiah, I think, that they want to bring to the world someday, possibly. But it's also the Christ is an office to them that could be held by anybody. So it's really that new religion of the Christ within, that new religion of the God within. They believe that. Of course, man, when he taps into that, it can be his own Christ, can be his own God. The thing that is necessary before the Christ comes is that we have made real progress in the establishing of right human relations. And we probably learned with all this reading what right human relations really is. It's the world socialism. World socialism. This is the key to the next step forward for humanity, which can only come about when the whole of humanity has been lifted out of degradation, injustice, cruelty, and starvation. Right human relations, the main immediately objective for the whole. Right human relations, the main immediately objective for the whole race, can only be brought about through the use of the magnetic power of goodwill, which is the reflection of the love of God in the human heart, and of which there is abundance. We must therefore become goodwill conscious in world affairs, help to use it and help to support it. Right human relations, the saving power of goodwill, effective support of the efforts of the senior disciples of the world with our time, in our intelligence and in our money. This is the measure of our opportunity today. This is the most glorious spiritual opportunity which humanity has ever faced since the days of Christ, when he was here before. He is again on his way, and he is closer to humanity today than he has been for 2,000 years. He is a real man, not some mystical figure. He is a great executive. And he has a marvelous capacity to utilize all the constructive forces that are now existent in the human family seeking the new day. We have to learn to recognize him in new ways and to work with him in new ways very humbly, but with all we've got. So there you have it. Yeah, right. Song's appropriate. So he's a real man, according to this. It'll probably be their fake messiah. Christians might regard him as an antichrist figure, of course. Messiah frontman, but he'll just be the puppet. But behind him will be the council. As Bill Cooper said this, but they've said it too. Council of wise men. Council of the evilarchy, of course. So, yep. So that's about all I have. There is something for the next video that I want to share. And it's taken from Bailey's book, Externalization of the Hierarchy, but I found it in other places, but I got to find it. But she says something is going to climax in the year 2025. Now that's less than 4 years from now. Was it just mumbo jumbo? I don't know, but I should share these quotes, and then pop up these other things I found on my phone regarding 2025. So, regarding the New World Order, anyways. Well, again, to remind everybody, the Rosicrucian Brotherhood, Illuminati proof. This is the age of a new world order, the establishment of brotherhood, and the elimination of all retarding forces. The new age is upon us. Either we harmonize with it, its laws, or we shall be destroyed by it. Show that again and again and again. I don't care how annoying it gets. Take care.